Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on the Durham Student YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about placement year applications and about what that entails and any tips and tricks I have for applications. So when I'm talking about placement years, I'm talking about a year in industry, so that you take the third year of your degree and go and work in a business for a year, and then you can return again in a fourth year to complete your degree, and that way your degree title has with placement year on the end. So these are largely done, in my experience, by business students, management students, marketing students, accounting and finance, economics, those kind of departments, but I know people from any department largely can do them. So I know people from departments such as history and English who also applied for placement years as well. So I, in my second year, have been applying for placements, and I've applied for a bunch of different ones. So I'm just going to tell you about what that experience involves, how many placements you might be applying for, how much time it takes, those kind of areas. So the first thing is, where do you even find placements? Like, how do you find out about placements? And in my experience, the site I used most to find placements was Rate My Placement. It's been incredibly useful. It's useful before it gets to a point where you're looking for placements, just to like check out the options, because they keep quite a lot of them listed even when they're not open. So like if you're considering taking a placement but you're not sure, you can have a look on there to browse the different options. You can also look on websites such as Indeed, which sometimes list them. That's like a more general job site. But there are a bunch of different ones, Target Jobs, Magnet Me, but for me, Rate My Placement was the most effective. Other places you can look are your uni careers email. So at Durham, we get sent emails with like what placements are open. We also have a Facebook group for everyone applying for placement years, where all different opportunities are posted, particularly ones which the university has contacted about. And then often company websites also have them listed in their job sections. So if there's a particular company that you know you're interested in working for a placement year, that's an option. Once you've found some places to apply to, what does an application actually involve? So one of the first things you're going to need for any application is your CV and your cover letter. So if you haven't got your CV up to date, you need to sort that out, and then you can get the careers department to check that out for you. So I had a meeting with a careers advisor to look over my CV and tell me what areas I could improve. The next thing you do, and this is probably all as part of the same first application you send off, is you answer a bunch of questions. So different companies have different questions, and it's often based on the company values, and like they're often company specific. So it might be to do with like, tell me how you'd act in this situation, or they'll give you like quite specific questions and you need to go into quite a lot of depth. And in my experience, it's really worthwhile spending time over these, because the ones that I spent less time on, I didn't get through to the next stage of the application, whereas the questions that I spent more time on, I was more successful with. One thing to say is a lot of places say the cover letter is optional. If they have the option to include a cover letter, do one, and it needs to be personalised to the organisation. You need to look at their values. And so the kind of formula I'd use for that is, why me? Why do I want this role specifically, and why do I want to work for that company specifically? So sell yourself to them, then convince them why you want that role in that company. Once you've got through these stages, some companies have these, some companies don't. There can be a variety of tests. So this includes situational judgment tests, numerical tests, and abstract tests. So what even are those? Well, the situational judgment test is where they will give you a scenario and they'll give you a number of options, and you have to say what thing you do in a scenario. And it's because obviously some people's decision making can be more suited to an organisation or less suited to an organisation. One thing I will say about this is that when I did my first application, which was to GSK, I kind of was trying to answer how I thought they'd want me to answer, and when I got back the feedback at the end of it, they basically said that my answers weren't consistent, because I'd been trying to second guess almost what answers they wanted me to give, and they could tell that I hadn't given consistent answers across all the scenarios. When I then did my application to Johnson & Johnson, where I'm actually now going to be going on placement, I answered it as honestly as possible, and obviously that worked out a lot better for me. There may be some basic numerical tests, so I had to do these for PwC. With PwC's application, they are kind of consistent across the different applications they do, so even though I was applying for a marketing role, I did have to do some numerical tests. If you're applying for something in accounting or finance, you will definitely have to do these, and then often they will retest on the day when you get there. So I did these for Johnson & Johnson as well, and then when I got to the assessment centre, they retested me there, and it's to make sure that you are actually the person who took the test in your application. Obviously, because basic maths and financial skills are needed in a lot of places, I know that I'm going to be working on budgets and things, so even though my role isn't like a finance focused role, I do need working knowledge of how to do like all sorts of mathematical calculations. The last one's an abstract reasoning test. Now, I did one of these for Johnson & Johnson. I had no idea what it was going to involve, and it was a very strange test. And this can be things such as like patterns, where you have to see what's like the next thing in the pattern is, and that kind of thing. And luckily I had been to a career session at the uni about this, and so I kind of knew what this involved, but it was something very different to what I was expecting. And on that note, it is really worth going to any career sessions that are put on, whichever organisation it's from, even if you're not sure if you want to apply there, because you'll learn so much from those. Trust me, I know that I did learn a lot from the sessions I went to. If you then pass all of these tests, the next thing you'll have to do is do a video interview. And whilst I originally thought that this would probably be an actual call with someone, it turns out that most companies have a video interview software in which you're sent a link. You have a couple of days to film the interview, and it is done on a system in which they it's on an online system which you do it on your laptop, and it presents a question to you on the screen, and then you just record yourself answering the question. Depending on what company it is, some of them give you multiple tries at recording it, some of them don't. Some of them will give you shorter or longer to prepare the answers and more or less time to answer the questions. So you kind of need to adjust your technique based on what like that company asks for, but they will let you know how it works beforehand. So I would recommend that you kind of have some notes ready, that you've done good research about the company, because for example for Johnson & Johnson, things like their credo are really important. So make sure that you know about the company you're applying for, because if they ask you specific questions, you need to be able to answer them. If you then pass that stage, you're at the final stage, and then you'll be going to an assessment centre. Now, an assessment centre is where you travel to the company. Obviously that could be different this year based on like the coronavirus, but what I experienced was you travel to the company. Often companies will pay some of your expenses to go there, so for travel or for accommodation, which for Durham is especially important because you will probably have to travel quite a long way and it could get really expensive otherwise. But all the companies who I went to assessment centres for offered some level of financial reimbursement, even if it wasn't the whole cost. It really did help. And so you'll get there and you'll have to do a variety of tasks. There will be interviews, there may be numerical tests, there'll be definitely a group task to see how you behave in a group. And so there's a variety of those factors. If that is something that's of interest to you, please let us know, and I can always do another video on assessment centres, but I won't go into too much detail about that now because there are a lot of things to cover in this video. Then how many placements is it normal to apply to? How many did I apply to? Well, before I came to applying for placements, we had talks in the business school, and we all asked everyone, how many placements do you expect to apply to? Because obviously you are all aware that it can take quite a long time for this whole process. And so most people said anywhere between sort of 8 to, well, there was one guy who'd done almost 50. That wasn't that common, but people had done sort of like 10 to 25 maybe, largely. I applied to 9 different companies and I got 3 assessment centres from these applications and then 2 job offers. So I think personally I found that one of the girls who had been on one of these panels that we attended, she said it's not about the number of places you apply to necessarily, it's about the amount of time you spend on the applications. Obviously this isn't the same for everybody, and when I heard her I was like, yeah, but that's only you. For me, I decided that I would try that tactic. Like every time I did one of the applications, I'd spend about a whole day on each application. So when I scheduled like how I was going to manage my studies and everything for second year, I decided that every Sunday for all of first term, or until I got a placement offer, I would spend all of Sunday every week applying for placements. And it largely was, I would spend an entire day applying for one. Sometimes it was a bit quicker, but it generally wasn't. But for me, it worked doing it that way because I could really dedicate the time and effort to it. And I wouldn't just do it in one day and submit it. I'd do it in one day, then come back to it a few days later, read over, make corrections, kind of see if there was anything I'd missed out, and then submit it, because you want to make sure these applications are of the highest quality possible, because for most of them you only get one shot. So with all this, then when do you start applying? I started applying as soon as I got back to uni, so in early October of second year. I was a bit slower at the start because I was quite nervous about it. I did the first one and heard back straight away the next day that I hadn't been like successful in moving on to the next round, and I was a bit intimidated. But honestly, I would just get on it, because the longer you wait into term, the more academic commitments you have. For us doing business at Durham, there weren't any assignments in first term, it was all in second term. So it was much more valuable to get it all out of the way in first term and try and apply to a lot of things. And one of the things to consider is that a lot of the placement deadlines do close earlier on. There are placement deadlines later on, so you don't need to worry if you don't get one in like the first round before Christmas, because I'm not sure how many people do, to be honest. The way I managed it was I made a big spreadsheet and I found all of the ones at the start. I researched which ones I wanted to do. Obviously there were going to be more being released, but I did an initial round writing down all of the ones I wanted to apply for, putting all of the deadlines, and then I applied to them in order of when the deadline was, because obviously you kind of need to manage it because there are so many and you don't want to miss any deadlines for places that you do want to apply for. So just a little bit more on how much time the applications take. As I said, I spent every Sunday doing it, but then depending on when I got things back, sometimes I do them during the week as well. So for example, some of the situational judgment tests that I did for Johnson & Johnson, I just did during the week as I got them, because a lot of them have deadlines on them. So it's like 3 days and you have to have it in within 3 days. So you do need to bear that in mind. You can't be super strict with it. But like for writing applications, I just gave myself a set day of the week to do that. Then once you have like assessment centres and things, that obviously takes more time out of your week because you need to travel to them. So with the Johnson & Johnson one, I travelled down on a Monday night, I had it all day on the Tuesday, travelled back on the Tuesday night and got back really late. It took up 2 whole days. So that travelling can make it take longer depending on how far you live. Obviously, if you were at a university in London, you might be quite close to them, depending, because a lot of them are down south. Whereas with Durham, you do need to factor in that extra travelling time. In addition to this, you will have to prepare stuff for the assessment centre. I had to prepare a whole presentation for my Johnson & Johnson assessment centre, and for my other one for Unilever, I had to prepare like a whole proposal, like a business proposal. So you will need to allow time before that. You need at least 1 full day, maybe 2, to do that preparation. So that week you are probably going to have to drop everything, which is why you need to stay really on top of any other deadlines you have, because you need to be aware that you might have to drop things and do that at any time. Which, whilst I thought that might be stressful, as long as you stay on top of things, that is manageable. The good thing to say is we have an amazing placement team in the business school. So the support I have received from the placement team in our business school has been honestly incredible. There are so many showcases where loads of companies come. You can find about all sorts of placements that are on offer. We had one this year in like first term, and I think there was some in second term as well. They have all sorts of companies there. You meet current students, ex-placement students. I was there as a representative of Enterprise because I did an internship in the summer. You meet the recruiters from the companies, and you can find out about businesses that you didn't even know you might want to apply for, and find places that you want to apply for. So it's a really cool option. Take advantage in the business school at Durham of all of the resources they have on hand, because I've been to so many panels. Like, I found out about the placement at Johnson & Johnson from a guy who had done it previously, from our uni, who'd done the marketing placement there. So it is really valuable to make all of the contacts and connections you can have, because you can then ask them for advice and applications and things. So if you have any more questions, comment below. I can do specific videos on different parts of the application process if you want. And let me know if you want any more videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.